Okay, here's a quick review of the unit circle and how you can look at it just with distances. So, the first thing we're going to talk about are the points on the unit circle. Um, Most of you are familiar with them, but and they seem to have nothing to do with each other. But let's look at it this way. Uh, it consists of five fractions that are over two. And it's basically just go from the square root of 0 up to the square root of 4. So the numerator is square root 0, square root 1, square root 2, square root 3, square root 4. Now, the important thing here is these numbers are listed from smallest to largest because the denominators are all the same and the numerators are increasing. So the one on the left is the smallest, the one on the right is the biggest. Now let's quickly simplify. The square root of 0 is 0, 0 over 2 is 0. Square root of 1 is 1. Square root of 2 does not simplify. Square root of 3 does not simplify. Square root of 4 is 2, so this would be 2 over 2 or 1. So these are the five numbers that you see on the unit circle. Now, we're going to talk about lengths. The length of 0 is obviously nothing. So 1/2, I'm going to call it this length, just arbitrary length. So the square root of 2 over 2 is going to be longer than the square root of 1/2 because it's a big number. So I'm going to call it this length. And square root of 3 over 2 is bigger than all three. I'm going to call it this length. And obviously 1 will be the biggest. We'll talk about that. So the unit circle, there's a pi over 3 or pi over 6 and pi over 4 circle. It's all one circle, but usually you look at those separately. The pi over 6 circle. That's pi over 6. So the next would be 2 pi over 6 or pi over 3, and then 3 pi over 6 or pi over 2 right here. So this one's pi over 6. This spoke is pi over 3. Now, the other unit circle is pi over 4, and pi over 4 is between pi over 6 and pi over 3. So the pi over 4 spoke would go right here. It cuts basically right in the center of this quadrant. So this is 1 pi over 4. The next one would be 2 pi over 4 or pi over 2 again. So here we have the unit circle. The middle spoke is the pi over 4. The two end spokes are the pi over 6 slash pi over 3. So let me redraw that pi over 4 so it looks a little bit better. Oh. So here we go. To figure out what point is associated with this pi over 3, just realize that it's an x comma y. So x comma y. I don't know why that's so thick. So to get to this point on the x-axis, you got to go this long distance. Well, the long distance we know must be root 3 over 2. So x coordinate for this is root 3 over 2. That's really obvious. Now, if we're looking at the second spoke, the pi over 4, well, the x coordinate for that, whoa, I moved the wrong thing. The x coordinate for that, you have to go this medium distance, or in other words, this actual medium distance to get to that point. So the x coordinate of this is the medium number, which is root 2 over 2. So it's all about distances. Finally, the 1/2, to get to this point, you have to go the short distance on the x-axis. So it would be right that little length, obviously, which is 1/2. And now the y coordinates, you do the same thing, except it's really, right now we have to go up. So we try to move these out of the way again. So let's look at this first point. It's root 3/2. That was the long distance on the x. Now we have to go up to get y. So that's going to be a short distance up. Let's just rotate that. So you go up that short distance from here to here. It doesn't fit perfectly, of course, but just notice the short distance. And then for the second point, the pi over 4 point, you went this medium distance to get to the x. And then compared to everything else, we have to go this medium distance now to get to the y. So the y coordinate must be the medium number, which is root 2/2. And then same thing with this point. We went the short distance on the x, but now the long distance on the y, and this is root 3/2. Now for this point right here, this is obviously, we have to go 0 on the x, but this is the unit circle. So unit circle means the radius is 1. So any point that's on an axis has to be one single unit. Actually, the long distance. The longest distance you're going to go on this circle is 1, and that would be at the axis. So hopefully that helps for getting around the unit circle. The next video after this is going to be just an example of how we're going to use that, and maybe, to identify angles anywhere on this circle, and then try to figure out what the trig functions will be. So that's coming up.